Competing on itself is great, and it shows them that they're not alone. Like I said with my niece, she felt alone on the team. She was a competitor, but she had to make a choice. Like, either I compete or I have friends. So we can make it on our teams that she doesn't have to make that choice. Okay, so I work at Beloit College, and Scott Bierman's our president. This is super exciting for us. He wrote this article about athletics. At liberal arts colleges, there's conversations about everything. Conversation about if you're going to change whatever. It's like this big campus-wide thing. It's all about sharing and all that stuff. So everything is a conversation. So there's an athletics conversation on our campus, and it's kind of a why thing. Why, everything's why. Why did you go with this food service? Why do you have this? So why athletics? Why does a small liberal arts college in Wisconsin need athletics? He says, among other things that we said that we were all fired up about, that athletics offers a particularly clear connection between high discipline and high achievement. And that's something that, whatever they're doing, if they never play sports again after that, that's going to be huge for the rest of their lives. And I just started jotting down a few of the things that I thought that comes from being on a team and coaching. And this leadership, it's followership, which is just as important as leadership. Team building, working with different personalities, excelling in a team environment, winning and losing with grace, performing under pressure, accepting a role on a team. All these things don't have anything to do with athletics, but it's what we're doing every single day. So it's like I said, I think this profession is amazing. I think it's like God's work. I think we're doing all these great things. We're talking to these young people and we're giving them all these amazing qualities. And so we just got to make sure that we're intentional about it. We're really focused on it. And that's it. That's it. Does anybody have questions about motivating people?
You talk about that team book. Is that something they create or something they read? And what do you mean by team book?
She asked about the team book that I talked about with my doing with my team. So it's just a regular book. So, and we divide it up. Like we'll read the Pyramid of Success book. We'll read there's a great book out there called Mind Gym, and we just
so it's like a book club. Like
sort of, and we just divide it up. Our season's about 11 weeks long, generally, so we divide up the book into 11 chunks. Everybody has to do a chunk. It helps because then they don't have to read the whole book. I don't think they would read the whole book. And so they're just responsible for one part, and then they present it to the team. Anyone else?
Now, when you have conflict, you get the girls together, right?
I do. After a while. I have steps. First, have you talked to the captains about this? And then, okay, have you guys talked to each other? So it's captains, it's one-on-one. And then if the captains tell me that it's still an issue, then they come to me.
Did you utilize that same strategy with younger girls, like middle school age girls?
I eliminate the captain part.
That's what I was
I eliminate the captain part. And then we have them talk directly to each other, but I'm just there to make sure everything stays good. Well, for me, I use the Pyramid of Success. So and we go through it. We spend the entire season, back up to it. We take the entire season and go through it. And we talk about that pyramid. And we'll do it once a week. We'll talk about what's industriousness, how is this going to be important. When we go through it, we just talk about it, we hammer that. And there's things that they think are going to be easy, like at the beginning of the season, they think friendship's going to be so easy and it's no big deal. But then like a month in, it's not so easy. I tell them, like, friendship is going to be hard. Like, you're going to have to work hard at being a good friend for the entire season. Okay? Because there's going to be stuff that comes up. So we just go through that. And this is what I do every 4 years. We get a new prompt every 4 years. We talk about this with them. Okay? So you can pick out different blocks that are important to you. But I always tell them, like, we don't even get to skill until 10 blocks in. And they think that's the most important thing. They think it probably should be the first thing. But it's way up there. And like I said, this is from a coach who was a multiple national championship winner. Skill comes way late in the game. There's a whole lot of like interpersonal things that come up before. Like any team that I've had that hasn't achieved has failed on that bottom, on that foundation wise.
I just wonder if you can just elaborate a little bit. You're talking about the girl drama, the do's and the don'ts. You said don't assume it's all about the other person. Can you just elaborate on this just a little bit?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times, well, there's a couple of things with that first one, elaborating on that one. I think assuming that it's all about the other person. If they come to you, they'll say, Coach, oh my gosh, Susie is such a jerk. I can't believe it, right? But they're not saying what maybe they've done also to make Susie such a jerk. So it's usually a two-way street. I found it's very, very rarely a one-way street when it comes to girl drama. There's a little give and take always. One may be given more than taken, but there's always a back and forth when it comes to that. So I never assume that it's all just one person. And I tell them now, I think about it. Did you do anything to encourage Susie to talk bad about you? And then, you want me to go through all of them? Want me to do all of them? Yeah? Go through all of them? Yes. Okay, so gossiping, well, that's just not good, right? We know that gossiping is not good, but they don't know it's not gossiping, that it's not good. And why is because they don't think what they're doing is gossiping. They think they're sharing their feelings, or they're talking to their friends, but what they're doing is gossiping. You know, because they haven't talked to you who actually have the power to change them. And they haven't talked to the person who they think is causing all the drama. And that person has power to change things. So if they're not talking to someone who can actually change it, then that's gossiping. And they're just chatting. Okay? In terms of the bad motives, I've actually had people try and sort of say that they're confronting in a good way, but it's really a really negative kind of backhanded compliment, like, well, I know that you hate me, but I like you. You're assuming that's someone. You're putting some negative on the other person. So you want to make sure that everything is from a fresh slate with that. Conflict gets emotional. I actually had a coach, one of our coaches just recently talked to me about conflict she's got on her team. She's got a young kid who's playing really well, and an older kid whose spot she took, and there's all this emotion, and the older kids are trying, of course, the older one, the younger kids are trying, the younger one, she's got perfection on her team, and it's super emotional because the older kids just think they should play because they're older. Obviously, coaches know that skill is what gets you out there, not just because we like you. We like all of our players. That's not why we're playing. We're playing because we're good enough to be out there. So I think it gets to be an emotional thing, especially if, with the new ones doing well or not well. They start attaching more things to that. And then just trying to get to know them. Like I said, on my team, because I'm dealing with a little bit older kids, but I still think with you guys, you're still dealing with people who are coming from different schools and you know each other well and all that. But for me, like I'll have every year, there's a freshman that comes in and says, oh my gosh, the seniors are so deep. And then every year, the seniors say, oh my gosh, the freshmen are so lazy. And I tell them, like, every year I tell them the same thing. You realize that when you're a senior, I tell this to the freshmen, when you're a senior, the freshmen are complaining about it. Like, this is just the deal. It's not a big issue, right? And I tell the senior, like, you realize when you were a freshman, they were calling you lazy, now you're calling them lazy. It's not a big thing. So if they get to know each other, they learn, and this isn't a big issue. We're making it a bigger issue than it is. And I think a lot of times that's just because they don't hang out with each other enough. Hanging out's important.
That's what my question was. What are some of the things you do to try to get to know each other?
Oh gosh, what we do, I have all sorts of cheesy things. You just open it up. Okay. So we do all sorts of stuff. So we'll do call it our stories. So every year they'll bring in 5 things that are important to them. It could be a stuffed animal, it could be a picture of their family or whatever. Okay? And they just go around like every day. And somebody, you give them 5 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes a day. Okay? And everybody gets to go. And they tell their stories to the team. Like especially at the beginning of the year, if you just got a whole bunch of people together, they don't know each other very well. Okay? And they talk about what's important. Sometimes we'll say, if it's a veteran team that pretty much knows each other, we'll say, well, what'd you do this summer? Like, tell us 5 things that we did this summer. And they'll bring something in. And I'm thinking about, because our another department on campus did this, I think I'm going to do this year, is have them do videos and talk about what they tell us about where they're from. Just like a 2 or 3 minute video, not like talk, show us your family, show us the things that are important to you, show us what you did this summer. But we do that kind of stuff, just in terms of getting to know each other. Team dinners are always a good thing. Food is always the great equalizer. So no matter what's going on, food is always good. So those are our big things. But I think getting to know each other at the beginning is good. Then when there's conflict, you can remind them, well, you did like them at a point, right? Maybe you don't like them now. There was a time when you did.
When you've got your older players, and you've got those freshmen coming in, and so now the older players think that by right, the freshmen should just know that they have to do all the rush work because they're. How do you get them to communicate that? So because I see a lot of older players just get furious because the freshmen aren't jacked and just are letting everything, and then they just do it because it needs to be done.
Right.
So there's definitely a leadership component here. So what's the best way to get them to work through that conflict without getting furious?
Right. So she asked about just the new people doing the grunt work kind of thing, and the veterans getting annoyed if the new people don't know that they're supposed to do that thing. We actually have it that, so the very first practice of our season, I have my little meeting and I talk about my expectations, yada, yada, yada. But then my leaders do the same things, and they talk about expectations, and they talk about that stuff. We don't have the young ones do all the grunt work. Everybody does the grunt work. Some people do more than the other. And I talk to my team about it. I say, well, you might have to carry the nasty laundry bag, which is the freshmen do. But I have higher expectations, leadership expectations of my older ones. So it's still a burden, it's just a different burden. You know what I mean? So I make it that it's not, well, you're new, so you gotta do all the crappy stuff. It's, you're new, so you gotta do this, because this is easy. And it's way easier than what I'm expecting of them, because when we're playing, I'm gonna expect them to execute, because they know what's going on, and you don't know yet. So you do this stuff. They still have a burden, it's just a different burden.
So is that just coming back to communicating it out and saying,
Yeah.
we're talking about roles, now defining roles. And
Yep.
some of those roles are not necessarily physical roles for leadership roles. Does that seem like a cop-out to some of your younger players? Or?
I don't think so. We play a lot of our young ones, so I think that helps. It's not like the young ones want to play or anything like that. So I think that they understand. I think they come in knowing that they're supposed to do something. And we've got so much stuff. I don't even think that we could just have the new people do all of the grunt work. And it's a little bit different with my situation, and probably yours too. Maybe you have a kid who lives farther away than another one who can just get there earlier. So maybe they have to do some of the stuff that you need them to do right away. But then maybe your kid who lives farther away does the stuff at the end of practice. So we work on that kind of thing. For me, some of my kids have to go to the training room, so they can't come around and set up the net and do all the stuff that needs to be done. But they can stay late and do things. So I think it's really just about managing expectations and making them know. I don't want to sound negative and say not to be so selfish and think about that. But everyone's got a burden to carry. And I talk to my team about this, especially with starters and non-starters. Both of those are equal burdens in my opinion. Like a starter is out there, and if they make a mistake, everybody sees it. But the non-starters, they're working their butts off in practice, and no one sees it. And those are equal burdens. They're getting the starters ready, but they're also, they both have to have that equal respect. And I think that's what you're talking about, is making sure that your older kids respect your younger kids and what they're doing.